Hello everyone, welcome in. It is Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's your number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. It is the final of the US Open. It's the final we all expected at the very beginning. Before I introduce you to Sean Calvert to preview Carlos Alcaraz against Jannik Sinner, please may I ask you to hit that subscribe button, hit the like, give us a comment, let us know your thoughts. Hopefully you've been cashing tickets throughout this tournament. Let us know what you think of the big final. And we'll read them out next time on the show. Good morning, Sean Calvert. It is 2 weeks ago we sat here, went through this preview. We've had 2 weeks of ups and downs, winners and losers, and the most inevitable outcome has happened.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have more winners than losers, which is ultimately what it's all about, I suppose. But yeah, I know, we said at the start, it's Sinner and Alcaraz that, they're miles ahead of the rest, and it would take something unexpected to be anything other than Sinner Alcaraz. But it is my job to kind of try and find a way that somebody else might get to the final. And as I said at the start of the show, US Open, normally you do get one big price winner. I don't think number 1 and 2 seeds have faced each other very often in the US Open final. I think Djokovic Medvedev was the last one a few years ago. But these aren't your normal 1 and 2 seeds either. There's numbers 1 and 2, and then there's a yawning chasm between 3 to the rest. So yeah, it's not an easy task trying to get these guys to not face each other in a Grand Slam final. But it's going to be a fabulous spectacle. It always is when these two play each other.
Yeah, always. This is their 6th meeting in a major already in their young careers, and there's going to be a lot more. I mean, I don't think anybody has ever met in all 4 major finals of 2 players in 1 year. I don't think. I've tried to look through that today. This is the 3rd time they've met. I couldn't find it 100%, but I don't think anybody's ever met each other in all 4 major finals.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually obviously you've got Roland Garros would have been Nadal versus other pretty much every year, and then the US Open generally, players are a bit more fatigued, aren't they? There's they come here a bit either mentally or physically jaded, and this is normally the major where you do get an unexpected finalist. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's it's normally a major where you would expect a few upsets, a few more upsets. Like last year, Alcaraz lost to Van der Zandschulp, all that sort of stuff, but not this year. They've both been, particularly Alcaraz, they've both been on all business, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about betting these two to play in it, be the final in all majors next year. I think the problem with that is injury, isn't it? You look like someone like Sinner. You just think, yeah, it's highly if they're both fit, then they stay fit all year, or for those 4 tournaments, then yeah, you would expect that to happen. But you never know, do you, with injuries and stuff? They do crop up. Well, I just think there's nobody emerging, and the players at the top end of the market, like the Djokovic, are going steadily backwards, and Zverev are going backwards, and the gap's going to get bigger. So
I think the only thing that will scupper that bet potentially would be injury. You're right. I can't see anybody else coming in, knocking one of these two off, and suddenly speeding up the rankings to number 2 or 3. It's highly likely, but injuries. I always worry about that, particularly if you've got to wait a long time to collect your money. You know what I'm like, Nigel. I like to get in, get out, get paid or not get paid, and then move on.
Exactly. Well, if you want to invest in a little bit for a year, I think that's a good interest. Sinner and Alcaraz play in every single major final in 2026. In 2025, they played in 3 of them. The only person who didn't play in the final was Alexander Zverev in the Australian Open. Anyway, let's have a look at this final. Sinner Alcaraz. And as you say, Sean, I've been absolutely, really, really impressed with Alcaraz. He hasn't dropped a set yet on the way through to this final. And if he doesn't drop a set here against Sinner in the final, which is a big ask, he'll be the first man ever to win the US Open without dropping a set. He's right? The dog. Okay. Yeah, he's the dog. Minus 130 for Sinner, but plus 110 for Carlos Alcaraz. Spread here is 1.5. Total 41.5. There's the set betting. There's the total sets. Bet Rivers have a multitude of different markets. Already 67 markets are available on the Bet Rivers app and on the website. You can download the app now. I usually say if you have a bet on the major, you can watch the match on the Bet Rivers app, but I'm sure you'll be watching this from the comfort of your home before the NFL action starts or during the NFL action. But this is going to be a very, very intriguing match here. But if you had just come down and knew nothing about tennis this week, and you knew nothing about these two players, and you watch Alcaraz, the way he performed this week, which I arguably think is the best couple of weeks I've ever seen from him, you'd be absolutely staggered that it was plus 110 for the final.
Yeah, I don't get this. I really don't. Minus 130. Yannick Sinner. He was actually that price has changed since this morning. The money's still coming for Sinner, or the line's been adjusted towards Sinner for whatever reason. But how can this be value? I don't see how it can be value. It's not value on any of the factors that I would look at. And the bookies often get this wrong. The betting underdog, as far as opening prices are concerned, which this pretty much is, has won this matchup 9 times in 14 meetings. 10 if you include Cincinnati, which is obviously a 5-0 retirement. But so the bookies don't get this right very often, and you can see why, because it's so tight. You know, whenever these guys play, it could go either way. And you've got Sin at -130. The winner of the opening set has lost the match 7 times in 14 meetings. So in play, I'm sure you'll get a bigger price than -130 in play about Yannick Sinner. I'd be very, very surprised if you didn't. So that's probably an option if you want to bet Sinner. But, you know, again, we're talking about Sinner. Is he fit again? Last night against Felix, stomach problem, medical timeout. You know, he's come out afterwards and said he's fine, but he would say that, wouldn't he? He's not going to say, actually, I'm in a bit of pain here. I could do without this final. He's not going to say that. He's going to say he's fine. But is he though? You know, there's always something wrong with him, isn't there? Wimbledon, it was the arm or the elbow. So there's a physical level. If you could compare these two, how they've looked physically this tournament, you certainly wouldn't have Alcaraz at +110. You'd probably have it the other way around, actually, because he's looked like an absolute beast, hasn't he, this tournament, Alcaraz? Oftentimes, pretty much every single time, he gets to the quarters, semis, and he's had at least 1 or 2, 4 or 5 set matches. He very rarely does he scoot through them in straights like he has here. He's looked, as you said, he's looked probably the best he's looked consistently at a major. If we look at what they've done this US Open statistically, if you're just going on US Open stats this year, again, Sinner, you wouldn't make him favourite. Service points won and return points won of 118, Alcaraz 120. So a slight advantage for Alcaraz there. And I think the key thing for me that stood out for watching Alcaraz this year, this tournament, is the serve. It looks bigger. It really does look bigger to me. And the statistics would bear that out. He's held serve 98% of the time this US Open, Alcaraz, which is more than Sinner. Sinner 95%, still very impressive, but 98% of the time, Alcaraz, you would not expect that. And Alcaraz has won more first serve points, 84%, Sinner 82.5%. Now, if you compare that to what they did at Wimbledon, it was the other way around. Sinner 94% holds compared to 89% for Alcaraz. Sinner 80% first serve points won compared to 77% for Alcaraz. So he's flipped that on its head. He's now serving bigger and holding more often. All right, there's variables with the different opponents and stuff, but even from the naked eye, I mean, it just looks like he's hitting it harder, stronger. It just looks a bigger serve than it has done in the past. It was always a decent serve, but now it just looks like he's added an extra 5% to it, and that's all you need in a matchup like this to make the difference. On the head-to-head, there's no advantage for Sinner either. Statistics on the head-to-head, all time, all surfaces, every match they've played, there's a tiny fraction towards Alcaraz. Alcaraz 100.3 in terms of service points won and return points won totals compared to 99.7. That's basically 50-50. Tiny advantage to Alcaraz on all surfaces. Just isolate outdoor hard. Decent advantage for Alcaraz, 102.4 to 97.6. So the head-to-head on this surface favours Alcaraz, and it's dead even if you include all the other surfaces as well. And as I've said, Sinner looks the one to me that doesn't look fully fit, as he so often doesn't. Alcaraz looking physically stronger, as I've said, hasn't dropped a set. The other factor here is that these two, it's constantly evolving this matchup. If people are expecting it to be the same as the Wimbledon match, they'll be surprised, I think, because these top players, they'll study every single point that's gone on there. Alcaraz with his team, his analysts, all the rest of it, and they will have come up with something that he can bring in that's going to be different to what he did at Wimbledon. He'll say, "Well, that didn't work at Wimbledon. We had a bit of a plan there. That didn't work out. So let's try this. Let's do more of this and less of this." And with some players, it's difficult to do that because they can only play one way, but Alcaraz can play in so many different ways. You can do the serve. He can serve volleys, very comfortable doing that. He can hit every shot in the book. You throw in some drop shots. He can play a variety of ways. I would say Sinner is a tiny bit more rigid in what he does. He's not as comfortable at the net. He's not going to come up with the same sort of miracle shots that Alcaraz comes up with, and there's just that slight favoritism for Alcaraz in terms of the variety. As I say, he can play a number of different ways. So I don't know. I just minus 130. If I was pricing this, I might make Sinner a fractional favourite, and I do mean a fractional, but it's pretty much a pick'em for me. I just don't see how you can have him minus 130. And this price is under pressure, I think, at the moment as well. It seems like it's the more money is coming for Sinner. I just don't see how you can bet it at that. I'm sure you will get a bigger price than that in play if you want to bet Sinner, but at this plus 110, I'm happy to take a chance on Alcaraz here.
Yeah, the action starts tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and the weather doesn't look too good tomorrow. A bit cool, bit of rain around as well, Sean. Have you seen the weather forecast?
Yeah, I think that's mainly in the morning, though. I think that's supposed to die out by 11, 12 o'clock, and then it's just going to be sort of cloudy, sort of 21, 22. So not much wind either by the look of it, 4, 5, 6 mile an hour, and very little wind. So I'd say the conditions were pretty perfect.
So we're looking at Alcaraz on the money line at plus 110. The money is coming for Sinner, so we may get a bigger price on Carlos Alcaraz than the plus 110. So keep an eye on the BetRivers app to make sure they get kept across those line movements. But I mean, on what we've seen so far, Alcaraz should never be a plus 110. This is obviously priced up on the fact that Sinner won Wimbledon, the fact that Sinner should have won the French Open, the fact that Sinner's been brilliant. But Alcaraz, as I said on the semi-final show, his recent record is absolutely incredible. If we look at some other markets here, the total games interest me here. The total 41.5 was the total. I can't see any downside in over 41.5 here. They played in 5 majors before. They played in Wimbledon this year. 40 was the total games. French Open 59, French Open previous to that 45, US Open 56, and Wimbledon 39. So you'll range from 39 to 59 on the total. Average 47.8 games in all their matches. Obviously, 2 of them have gone under the 41.5 with the 40 to 39. But you can't. I mean, I don't see any downside at all at 41.5.
I think he'll probably come. What price is that actually? I can't see.
Over 41.5 minus 107. Under's the favourite.
Yeah. I think that they're just saying that Sinner's going to win this in sort of 3 or 4, aren't they? 3 doesn't seem that likely. That just seems highly unlikely. 4, maybe. That's obviously what he did at Wimbledon. If you're asking me would I be an overs or unders better, I would be over 41.5. Yeah, I think this could be a long match. And again, as I've said before about Sinner, the longer it goes, the more you would probably favour Alcaraz. So I could be tempted with the 3-2 Alcaraz there. Just being a bit greedy on the price. But yeah, if you're a straight overs and unders backer, I would potentially go over the 41.5 rather than under. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of these contests have been absolutely down to the wire, and this one looks at a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, in their previous 5 meetings in majors, 2 of them have gone to 4 sets, 3 have gone to 5 sets. Neither player has won 3 sets to love, and over 3.5 sets there is minus 230 with BetRivers. And if you bet any over 3.5 sets, the likelihood is you're probably going to cover the 41, which is over minus 107. So I think that's a little bit of value there. Obviously, Sinner has dropped sets already in his tournament. He dropped a set to both the. He dropped to. Did he drop a set to Shapovalov?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he should have dropped 2. He should have dropped 2. He was a point away from being a double breakdown in that 3rd set. But Shapovalov was Shapovalov.
Yeah, and obviously Felix last night taking a set off him. So 2 Canadians have taken a set off him, and Carlos Alcaraz is obviously going to be trying to make history, become the first man to win the US Open without dropping a set. Just some other interesting stats I found. In all 5 of the majors they played previously, all 5 of them have gone under 10.5 in set number 1, which I found quite. There's been a lot of tie breaks.
There has.
Tie breaks are coming not in first set, all unders.
If you look at some of the numbers in the first sets, I think it's every score apart from 6-love in the first set. The 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4, 7-5. 7-6. Sorry, there's not 7-5, is there? Not 7. Apart from 7-5, so they've been completely. A lot of them have been 6-1, 6-2s.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very difficult to predict. I mean, that kind of depends on how they're feeling the ball early. I'm not sure I'd bet that market, but yeah, there's if you look at the head-to-head, there's plenty of stats on this, and there's plenty of markets available with BetRivers. I mean, I'm personally just keeping it simple and just going for the money line, but yeah, there's plenty of options, and there will be more markets as well to come, I should imagine. Things like double faults and total aces and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. All those markets will be added throughout the day today, and obviously tomorrow morning, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow, Sunday, is the men's singles final. The women's single final is later on today. There is a show available, Betting Weekly, WTA, myself and Roy Giovanni, looking at that women's final. If you're looking at the total profit for the show so far in 2025, it's 14.13 units. And the US Open, we are plus 2 units on the tournament. And obviously with our outrights not doing so great, that's a good return on the match bet. So we are having one official play. And vamos, we are with Carlos Alcaraz at plus 110. So a unit on Carlos Alcaraz means we've guaranteed profit on the show for the US Open. If he wins, we're going to add it to that as well. So we're cheering on the Spaniard.
Yes, I think it's a decent price. I just think, I'm sure people will tell me why Sin has been priced at minus 130. I just can't quite get it myself. So if you think there's value, then it's worth a bet. Previous years we've struggled, haven't we, with the finals? They've been very one-sided and stuff. But this is, particularly with the bookies getting it wrong so often. As I said, the opening prices they've been terrible in terms of how the bookies have priced these. The underdogs were vast majority at the time. So yeah, plus 110. I think you might even get bigger than plus 110, but that's going on the official figures, plus 110 if you win. So I think it's a decent price.
Yeah, on the form showing this tournament, Carlos Alcaraz should never be a plus 110 chance against Yannick Sinner, who has been great, but not at his best. That's fair to say. Remember, next week we've got a week off, Sean. Our only week off of the tennis season is next week, and I think it's actually 10 days off we have. I'm going to get on an aeroplane and go to Greece. I'm going to go out to Greece for the week.
I'm not going anywhere because Lagan's gone back to school. So yeah. Great time.
We returned for the Far East swing, so it all goes in city schedules.
That starts on a Wednesday. That runs Wednesday to Tuesday or something. Tuesday to Wednesday. It's midweek. It's midweek to midweek anyway, for whatever reason. So yeah, we'll be starting. I don't even know when we'll be recording the show for that. I would guess, looking at this calendar there, it's Chengdu. That starts on the Wednesday, so I'd probably imagine we'll be back on Tuesday, the 16th, I should think.
Yeah. So we got a week off, but there is tennis action on the channel. Betting Weekly WTA has 2 events next week, which I'll be previewing with Rory tomorrow. We'll be adding a WTA match bet show as well in midweek. I think Tim Dennis will be joining Rory on that. And it'll be Betting Weekly Tennis Live for live in-play on the WTA Tour, and obviously the Premier League and the European Soccer League return on Thursday. So a very much well-deserved week off for Sean and myself. Well, not myself, I'm still be doing stuff. But Sean has a nice week off.
At least you'll be in Greece.
Yeah, I'll be in Greece. But anyway, here we are. We'll be back next week. Hopefully you enjoyed the content throughout the US Open. Hopefully you enjoy this show. And hopefully Carlos Alcaraz can end the tournament with a winning pick at a very nice plus money price of plus 110. Sean, thank you very much for your time. Take care. And we'll see you in a week or so. Enjoy your break. Take care.
Thank you.